Part 31. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 301. Yes, and the third princess was in a hurry to find trouble with Muyuan's Star Master. As a result, she had to accompany us to climb a high mountain for a long time. Not to mention, she was also unlucky. One of her beautiful skirts was completely ruined because of the mountain climbing. And later switched to a flying car, but the flying car went directly under the fallen tree, and she was unlucky enough to be disfigured. This gave her another reason to want to kill the Star Master of Jupiter, to vent her anger. Naked anger. Yes, I was there and heard her yelling angrily, and she also said she wanted to kill the Muyuan Star Master. She must have started to want to kill someone at that time. They were so full of indignation and so conclusive that they almost gave Qin Yushin a stone hammer and put her on the pillar of shame. Even if Qin Yushin wasn't a good listener, she still listened to these remarks. She was so angry that her delicate body trembled, and her whole body was about to explode. Why didn't anyone believe her? Why did they all side with Sheng Baining and help that bitch, the ancient doctor? She gritted her teeth and yelled at them with her face flushed, "That's enough for you, don't make random assumptions without evidence, or I'll sue you for slander." The scene was silent for a few seconds, but soon someone started laughing. "You can just go and sue. What we people on Genuine Star stand for is free speech. It doesn't matter if you sue me. Nothing will happen to me. As for according to the laws of the main star, I can't go in and squat for a day. At the worst, I will pay a few star coins, but you, third princess, the pure will be pure and the dirty will be dirty. If you really didn't hire a killer, why would you be so angry? Even your makeup was stained by anger. Now you look like you are angry because you have been exposed, everyone. Do you think so?" Yes. Others cheered and responded loudly. Those with backgrounds who were not afraid of Qin Yushin laughed very loudly, while those without backgrounds who were afraid of offending others laughed secretly. With such a commotion, even the noble ladies who were originally following Qin Yushin no longer dared to go over and stand with Qin Yushin. Because they were close to Qin Yushin, they knew better about her hatred for little Lord Feng's wife, the Star Master of Muyuan. When they hid on the battleship because of their disfigurement, Qin Yushin often cursed her to death. The possibility of secretly hiring a killer to kill her is quite high. None of the noble ladies believed that Qin Yushin was innocent. Bai Qianchun and Fen Yuyu stood behind the crowd. Bai Qianchun raised the corner of her mouth and poked the man next to her with her elbow. "Genuine Star really advocates freedom of speech." Fen Yuyu nodded without hesitation. "Of course, there is no literary prison on Genuine Star. There is no legal system for punishing speech. This will greatly affect the happiness of the people of the star. I am very clear and can tolerate anyone as long as they do not do bad things." Bai Qianchun nodded thoughtfully. "Well, yes, your idea is very good. I, the Muyuan planet, will not impose any restrictions in this regard in the future." Fen Yuyu's eyes suddenly brightened after being praised, and he thought to himself that that boy had really earned him face, so when he got back, he would increase his Star Citizen contribution points and improve his welfare benefits. Then he took this opportunity to continue chatting. "Your Jupiter planet is about to be built. After the opening of this tourism, many people will definitely apply to immigrate here, so the relevant laws on your Jupiter planet must be formulated in advance, otherwise by then, if there are too many people, there will be trouble." Bai Qianchun nodded seriously. "What you said makes sense. How about I use the regulations and systems on your Genuine planet to implement them first?" She frowned and felt a little troubled. It was really difficult to build a good planet, especially since the Empire also gave the star owners the right to set their own rules and regulations. This was even more troublesome. She had no research on this aspect at all. In her previous life, it was also a period of war and chaos, and the relevant legal systems were incomplete and ineffective, so her understanding of this aspect was quite lacking. Now that it was mentioned, she immediately felt that it was a bit overwhelming, so she might as well just use a ready-made one. Fenuyuya couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth, of course, but there are still differences between the Muyuan planet and the Jinyuan planet. For example, my Jinyuan planet is rich in ores, and from time to time there will be some unexploited new ores, so as to avoid some planets people are guarding themselves against stealing, or hiding rare ores privately, so I have formulated many laws and regulations in this area, and the punishments are extremely severe. However, your Jupiter planet is not rich in ores, so there is no need for laws in this area. You can add some more. There are laws related to cherishing medicinal herbs and fruit trees and not allowing them to be harvested without permission. Bai Qianchun nodded repeatedly after hearing this. Yeah, I'll do as you say. You will help me with my advice when the time comes. Bai Qianchun found herself a free brain tool person without any hesitation. The free brain tool man himself was quite willing to cooperate, and his tail was raised with joy. Okay, I will help you make these laws and regulations perfect, and there will be no loopholes. This was something that went deep into Bai Qianchun's heart. She solemnly expressed her gratitude. I'll trouble you then. Fenuyu's evil face smiled like a spring breeze. It's not troublesome at all. The few guests who stood in front of the two people and listened for a few times stiffened up and did not dare to look back. They only dared to refresh the screen in their hearts. Good guy, those who are Star Lords are different from the idiots like them. Earlier, everyone was talking about attacking Qin Yushin, who wanted to assassinate the Star Lord of Muyuan Star. However, it turns out that the real Lord of Muyuan Star has no regard for this enemy at all. I didn't care, but instead discussed the formulation of laws and regulations, which is a major matter that is conducive to the development of the planet and benefits the people of the stars. It's amazing. Otherwise, how could anyone be chosen to be a star master? They can only be star citizens. On this side, Shen Baining also discovered their couple and said proudly to Qin Yushin, my brother and sister have already captured the killer you sent to assassinate my brother and sister, and they even took out the poison from his mouth. Poison can't kill you, so I must have pried a lot of evidence out of his mouth by now. When Qin Yushin heard that the poison in the man's mouth was discovered, her whole body was like a bolt from the blue. The calmness she had pretended to be was really uncontrollable this time. Everyone could clearly see the disbelief and panic on her face. Clearly. This time, even the few who were still hesitant among the melon-eating guests were finally convinced that the third princess was really evil and had hired someone to kill the Muyuan Star Lord. After Bai Qianchun and Fenuyuya heard Shen Baining's words, they also walked out of the separate crowd in cooperation. They both looked at Qin Yushin with the evidence is conclusive, let me see how you deny it. Qin Yushin's eyes widened in shock. She didn't hold back on the spot. She took 2 steps back in desperation, like a butterfly making its last struggle in a spider web. She fragilely and unwillingly murmured, impossible, impossible, waste, that waste, in vain he gave me so many star coins. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 302. Third Princess. A dull voice sounded from above her head. Qin Yushin staggered back and ran into the arms of the person standing behind her. It turned out to be the gloomy deputy captain brought over by Captain Bale. His head was slightly drooped at the moment, his long hair covered his eyes, and he could not see any emotion. He stretched out his 2 pale and thin big hands to hold Qin Yushin. Shoulders. From the perspective of others, it seemed as if Qin Yushin's entire body was embedded in his arms. Qin Yushin's body froze, and she suddenly woke up. She quickly broke out of the arms of the person behind her, turned around and glared at him fiercely, and shouted, "Don't touch me with your dirty hands." Vice Captain Moss's dry lips pursed bitterly, his hands that were still in mid-air stiffened slightly, and finally hung down weakly. At this time, he raised his head and finally revealed his eyes hidden under his hair. There were complex emotions such as obscure, pain, love, hope, etc. in his eyes. It was obviously a young face that looked sickly and pale, but these eyes are full of vicissitudes of life. He smiled bitterly with a hoarse voice, "Third princess, don't be afraid. I know that everything was not done by you, but by me. Everyone. What the hell? They just walked around for a while, why did someone suddenly show up and confess his guilt?" Shen Baining, Bai Jianchun, and Fen Yuyu, who had deceived Qin Yushan and saw that she was about to reveal her flaws, looked shocked in their eyes. Even Qin Yushan looked at Moss with shock. "What did you say? You did everything." Moss looked at her with his eyes and answered with pale lips, "I was the one who planned to kill Muyuan Star Master." What? Qin Yushan wriggled her lips and looked at him blankly with mixed thoughts, disgust, and confusion, but in the end she did not say anything to question him at this time. Bai Jianchun frowned, glanced at Qin Yushan, and then at Moss, whose eyes were full of love but not fake. "Why are you doing this? I don't remember meeting you before, let alone becoming enemies." Moss's vicissitudes of life reluctantly moved away from Qin Yushan's face, and immediately turned sharp after moving to Bai Qianchun's face. His hoarse voice also had a cold tone, "I really don't know you, and I don't know you either. No grudge, but you took away the person the third princess liked, and the third princess wants you to disappear, so I will help her get rid of you." Hiss. The people around took a breath. It was a real-life version of the crazy night. If my sweetheart is unhappy, then I will help my sweetheart get rid of the wife of the person she likes, so that my sweetheart and the person she likes can be together. Oh my God, what a story, so tragic, and such a great supporting actor. Everyone didn't know whether to complain about him killing someone because of this, or to praise him for the depth of his love. Fen Yuyu stood in front of Bai Jianchun, blocking Moss' cold eyes. Her handsome and evil-looking brows furrowed, and her eyes looking at Moss were filled with cold murderous intent. Seeing his protective action, Qin Yushan's eyes burst into flames and she almost went crazy again. Bai Jianchun reached out and pushed Fen Yuyu to the side, then met Moss's gaze calmly. "Then what did the third princess mean by what she just said?" Mars paused, his eyes obscure. "That's what you mean, the third princess did anonymously post a mission to kill you." Moss. Qin Yushan screamed and looked at him angrily. She thought that this man was coming to help her take the blame, but she didn't expect that he would directly remove her fig leaf. But no matter how angry Qin Yushan was, Moss still had no intention of retorting, but continued to explain what he had done in a calm tone. "I knew after the third princess issued an anonymous mission and contacted me to arrange for people to be put on the transport ship. Knowing this, I arranged for temporary worker Xiao Lu to pick up the killer from Greedy Wolf Star, and also bypassed the captain and entered him into the official crew list so that he could pass the inspection of the transport ship. The night before he took action, I contacted Xiao Lu again, threatened him with suicide using his family members, and cleared up the clues pointing to me. In this way, only the third princess and I knew about it." Then he laughed again. "Actually, after I knew the basic information of this killer, I knew that he could not kill the Muyuan Star Master. Later, after boarding the transport ship, I cut off the connection between the third princess and the killer and replaced the third princess. The princess helped him formulate several assassination plans, so the assassination that the killer did today has nothing to do with the third princess. Everything was done by me and was ordered by me. In addition, I also used this killer. The second person, Zhuang Chuan, was deployed." Bai Jianchun and Fen Yuyu's eyes trembled slightly. "Good guy, I didn't expect that Zhuang Chuan and that fake Qian were really related. It was still such a connection." However, Fen Yuyu only knew that Zhuang Chuan had poisoned him, but he didn't know what kind of poison Zhuang Chuan had poisoned. So after telling Moss the name, he just had a sudden realization and didn't speculate too much. But Bai Jianchun was different. She knew what kind of poison Zhuang Chuan was poisoning. The red silk cells appeared on the bodies of the Border Star warriors back then. The characters involved were certainly not simple. Anyway, the mastermind behind the scenes could not be a simple person. In the love story, the male protagonist is crazy about love and kills for love. Regardless of whether they believed it or not, Moss continued to talk to himself. I gave the poison to Zhuang Chuan this morning and asked him to seize the opportunity to poison you. He would not hesitate to poison you on a large scale, but I didn't expect you. I still found it, but I didn't drink the cup of blood swallow, which is a pity. He looked at Bai Qianchun with an expression of hatred and resentment, and then quickly turned back to Qin Yushan with a soft look. Third princess, so this murder incident has nothing to do with you, you are just not angry for the moment. It's just a mission. I did all the murder planning and contacting the killer. You are not responsible for anything, so you don't have to be afraid of them. Then I saw him giving Qin Yushan one last nostalgic look, and then took out 2 black buttons from his arms with subtle movements. Bai Qianchun noticed this action keenly, her pupils shrank, and she shouted sternly, "Quick, stop it!" But it was too late. Moss moved very quickly and directly crushed the black button, followed by 2 loud noises in the direction of the kitchen. At the same time, he bit out the poison in his mouth. The next second, he looked in Bai Qianchun's direction with a strange smile. He fell straight down, dark green blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth, and he refused to close his eyes. What happened was so sudden that Qin Yushan was stunned for 3 seconds before she turned pale with fright, screamed and hurriedly ran away, avoiding the fallen person. The onlookers listened to the screams and frowned in disdain. They killed people for you and poisoned you recklessly, but you didn't even look at them after they died and even avoided them. This is really heartless. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 303. Bai Qianchun, Fenyuyu, and Shen Baining hurried over. Bai Qianchun pressed his finger on his carotid artery, frowned, and shook his head at Fenyuyu and Shen Baining, who looked over. Said coldly, "Dead." Shen Baining's bright face was frowning, and her heart was irritated. He died simply. It was just that Qin Yushan was advantaged, and she was just a hair away from being able to trick her into confessing. Unexpectedly, an admirer came out and took all the blame for her. This man named Moss is quite smart. After taking the blame, he will die without any evidence. This is because he is determined to keep Qin Yushan. Unfortunately, his infatuation is all exposed to the dogs. Shen Baining glanced at Qin Yushan, who had a pale face but strangely raised corners of her mouth after jumping into the crowd. She seemed not sad at all and was still enjoying herself. She suddenly felt sarcastic in her heart. It's really heartless. Even if you don't like it, you have to have a sad attitude when someone dies for you. I don't know how that Moss and this Qin Yushan met, and how did they fall in love with such a thing. Bai Qianchun squatted next to Moss's body, wearing a disposable mask with both hands. Then she pinched his cheeks with her left hand, opened his jaw, and took out a white broken transparent piece from his mouth with tweezers in her right hand. The material was exactly the same as the drug hiding film that had been taken out of the mouths of fake Qianqian and Zhuang Chuan. Bai Qianchun came closer and sniffed it. The smell was the same. It was the same poison used by fake Qianqian and Zhuang Chuan. Sir, Zhuang Shu hurried over in a mess, with blood stains on his clothes. The onlookers quickly made way for him. Fenyuyu's heart skipped a beat when she saw him like this, and she asked keenly, "Did something happen to the fake Qianqian and Zhuang Chuan?" Zhuang Shu nodded solemnly, "Yes, the fake Qianqian and Zhuang Chuan exploded just now. Micro bombs were implanted in their bodies to prevent them from failing to complete the mission and die, So the temple also issued a mission release: a person's remote control can determine their life or death. Fake Qian didn't know about this. Zhuang Chuan was careful when the bomb was planted, but he knew about it. What the chief's wife guessed before was right. Zhuang Chuan did have some feelings for the girl Su Shen admired. When he saw this girl when he showed up, he immediately panicked and told the incident, but it was too late. As soon as he told the incident, his whole body exploded. The two people guarding him, and the girl were all affected. Spread. Bai Qianchun stood up and asked, "How are they doing now? Do they need healing pills?" Zhuangshu hurriedly said, "No, no, no. Although the mini bomb is very powerful, we can hide quickly. The girl is fine, just with some slight scratches. The blood on her body belongs to Zhuang Chuan. The two people guarding the fake Qian are also injured, just a slight scratch, nothing serious." Yes, Bai Qianchun felt a little relieved, but still gave him a bottle of small healing pill. After all, he was injured because he was trying to help her. She couldn't be too stingy. If nothing else, she could still take enough treatment pills. Okay, then this matter is over. The person behind the scenes committed suicide. The two accomplices who did it were also killed. Only Qin Yushan is left. What are you going to do? Shen Baining came over and looked at the young couple. Both asked. She stood there, feeling a little uncomfortable in her heart. She didn't even have a chance to take action, and it always felt like it was an anticlimax. Fen Yuyu's eyes turned cold instantly. Of course we can't just let it go. She is the initiator who wants to kill my wife, so what if someone takes the blame for her? Didn't she do it? Zhuangshu, kill her. Qin Yushan, who was rejoicing, suddenly turned pale with fright, looked over with shocked eyes, and said with trembling lips, "No, no, you can't kill me. I am not guilty. I am the third princess of the empire. How dare you?" Fen Yuyu sneered coldly, "I dare you. Murder must be punished with life. Why are Zhuangshu so stupid? You, the lieutenant, have nothing to do with you. Do you know if you obey orders?" Oh, yes, Zhuangshu never expected that his own officer would be so reckless. He would kill him at any time in public, but he had no choice. He was just an adjutant who could only follow orders and was afraid of being dismissed. He immediately took the order and walked towards Qin Yushan with an "I'm sorry" expression on his face. Qin Yushan's eyes were about to burst, and she looked at Fen Yuyu with a painful look on her face, the man she loved and who had tried so hard to make her fall like this. Why, I did this all because I like you. Do you seriously? Aren't you merciless at all? Aren't you afraid that my father will blame you?" Fen Yuyu felt goosebumps when she looked at her. She moved closer to Bai Qianchun, and then she said in disgust, "Don't be afraid, you are the one who made the mistake. I just killed him first and then played the part. His Majesty the Emperor has to praise him. I did a good job of obeying the law and not showing favoritism to the Emperor's relatives." "Ah, you shameless guy, you killed someone's daughter and you still want someone to praise you. What good things are you thinking of?" The onlookers all complained. Seeing Zhuangshu getting closer and closer, Qin Yushan stepped back repeatedly, and this time she really felt scared. She looked at her little sisters for help, but the little sisters who had been following her now avoided her eyes with a guilty conscience. She looked at the men who admired her, and those men were also timid. He looked away, looking at the sky and the earth but not at her. Just kidding, they are on Wuyuan planet now, surrounded by people from the Phoenix battleship, with Major General Sheng and Marshal Huo backing them up. Since these two didn't stop them, it means they agree. If they stand up and oppose it now, please beg for mercy, there is no guarantee that the angry young Lord Fen will kill them as well. Qin Yushan's eyes were red, and she was described as crazy and bitchy. They were all bitches. Before, everyone gathered around her like a pug, but now they all turned into turtles. She could only put her last hope in Bai Chen-jun. She remembered that this man was the most licking and stupid man. As expected, Bai Chen-jun was frightened when he saw her pale and pitiful appearance, but he didn't look away like the others and didn't dare to look at her. Bai Chen-jun's mouth turned bitter. What should he do? This is the third princess, the third princess. Bai Chen-jun really couldn't understand why a young prince dared to kill the dignified third princess. In his mind, the royal family of the Huayao Empire was the most authoritative. Even though his father had analyzed it for him, he still felt that the third princess was more noble than Shen Shenxiang. How can this situation be rectified now? Should he stand up and persuade her? Whether it is because of the noble status of the third princess or because she is beautiful and pitiful, he does not want to see her die. Just when he gritted his teeth and was about to stand up, Mizusawayu beside him walked out first. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 304. Feng family boy, what you are doing is not appropriate, is it? Although the third princess made a mistake, the Muyuan Star Master was not injured at all, so her crime will not lead to death, not to mention that the man named Moss just now, as I said, everything that follows was arranged by him and has nothing to do with the third princess, so the situation of the third princess is at best an attempted crime. According to the laws of the main planet, the maximum sentence is 100 years in prison, which is not even the death penalty. Mizusawayu had a fake smile on his feminine face, pretending to stand up and speak out. Qin Yushin immediately abandoned Bai Chen-jun, that useless man, and looked towards Shui Ziyu with excited eyes. She didn't expect that the person from the Shui family would be the one to stand up and speak for her in the end. She used to look down on the second child of the Shui family. Anyone with a discerning eye knows that military power is the most important. If the boss of the Shui family controls the military, it means he has touched the lifeblood of the Shui family. So no matter how much the second child of the Shui family jumps around, he is still just the second child, unless only when the boss of the Shui family dies will he have a chance to take over. Her eyes flickered. Maybe she could cooperate with this person if she had a chance in the future. As for what he said about being sentenced to prison, she was not afraid. As long as she left Mu Yuanxing and returned to her father, he would definitely help her. She was his father. My favorite daughter. Shuizawayu noticed her gaze and sneered in his heart. He didn't really come out to plead for her, a stupid woman, to save his life, but to create conflicts. He still clearly remembers the humiliation he suffered from the boy Fengjia and the woman Mu Yuanxing by the campfire. Now this Qin Yushin is his best opportunity for revenge. He pointed out that her crime was not worthy of death. If Feng Yuyu really killed the third princess regardless of his wife, he would definitely be remembered by His Majesty the Emperor in the future. Even if it could not kill him, he would show no mercy at all. The news about his violation of Guzuxing's laws spread out, but he still didn't get any good results. Not only will His Majesty the Emperor be wary of him, other partners will also consider whether to cooperate with him. In short, as long as Qin Yushin dies, Feng Yuyu's reputation will become worse, and many invisible things will increase, which will constrain his Feng family in the future. This is the purpose of Mizusawagiku. Then two people with different thoughts looked at Feng Yuyu, wanting to see what he would do. Qin Yushin, of course, wanted him to retort and not kill her. As for Shuizawayu, he smiled sinisterly in his heart and said, kill her she, this is more conducive to his purpose. Unexpectedly, Feng Yuyu, who had a gloomy and ugly face, was about to speak when Bai Jianshun, who was standing next to him, reached out to stop him. He walked out and said with a smile, I'm afraid Mr. Shui has forgotten one thing. This is my Muyuan. The star is a high-level planet like the main star. The star owner has the right to formulate laws and regulations. It just so happened that I just made one. Anyone who wants to harm the star owner or cause harm to the star owner's life will be punished with the maximum punishment. Death penalty. Look, how is my law formulated? She said this with a smile, as if she had gotten some fun toy, but Mizusawayu was horrified in his heart. He knew that this woman was not a light-hearted person, but he didn't expect that she was so smart and so fast. After reacting, he directly broke his game. What else could Mizusawayu do? After weighing the pros and cons, he could only knock out his teeth and swallow it in his stomach. He gritted his teeth and pulled the corners of his mouth with a dry smile and said, okay, since it was formulated by the Star Lord, then there is no problem. Mr. Feng, killing the third princess is considered legal and reasonable. Qin Yushin suddenly looked at him in horror. Did he give up so easily? Feng Yuya curled up his lips, looking very happy. His wife was smart, and she almost fell into the trap of that old boy Shui Ziyu just now. Although he is not afraid. His Majesty the Emperor is his uncle. Even if he is angry that he killed his daughter, for the sake of his cousin and his aunt, he will definitely not care about him in the end. At most, he will be angry for a while. After all, he has killed everyone. It was her own fault. As for His Majesty the Emperor's doting on Qin Yushin, hey, others don't know what's going on, but he knows it. The Emperor's uncle has 3 daughters in total. The eldest Princess Qin Yutang is the biological daughter of his Empress aunt. She is a dashing and heroic figure. She walks with wind and a murderous aura. At 1.8 meters tall, she stands out among the interstellar women, and is also conspicuous among the men. In addition, she likes boxing and kung fu and likes to find people to spar with. Many of the people in her cousin's first legion were beaten to the point of crying for their mothers. In addition, she also has short hair that reaches her chin. She is clean and neat, and her solid body muscles are stronger and smoother than some men. She looks like a manly woman. When she goes out and says she is a princess, haha, who will believe it? His emperor's uncle also felt that this daughter really didn't look like a princess, so he could only raise her as a son with a kind face. As for the second princess, Qin Yuru, she was quite princess-like at first, arrogant, with her nostrils pointing to the sky, and everyone holding the moon in their arms. But she and the third prince Qin Yuyan were from the same mother. Since more than a year ago, the third prince colluded with the Orc Empire and betrayed the Huayao Empire's internal information, leading to steady defeats in the war and numerous casualties. It was an unforgivable crime. Her mother-in-law begged hard, and her mother's family, the Sun family, handed over the army, thus saving the third prince's life, and he only ended up with life imprisonment. After that, her mother-in-law became depressed and died of illness not long after. Her grandfather was the only one left in the Sun family, who retreated to the small planet. From then on, there was no one to support Qin Yuru. So her temperament changed drastically, she became sensitive and timid, and she lived in a corner. As a result, she was naturally not suitable to be a princess representative. So among the short ones, Qin Yushin was highlighted. It happened that the royal family lacked a princess representative, so His Majesty the Emperor just slipped her out. When it comes to pampering, it can only be said to be superficial pampering, but not actually. At most, it's just because Qin Yushin is the representative of the royal princess. If you treat her better, it still represents the face of the royal family. If you treat her poorly, it will also be the face of the royal family. In this way, Qin Yushin felt very happy when she was held in such a high position, and she really thought that she was the most beloved princess. And now, because of her previous nonsense, she herself has thrown away the glorious halo of being a princess. She must have lost her favor from her uncle and been downgraded to an ordinary little transparent daughter, so she is banned from traveling. Jade was very relieved. As for other invisible influences, Mizusawayu has overthought them. As long as he has the golden source star, a hen that can lay eggs, and the real power of the Legion, who dares not to give him face? You must know that people nowadays care about interests. As long as interests are if you are old enough, who cares whether you are crazy or stupid, or whether you killed an insignificant third princess. Therefore, Mizusawayu's plan was completely wrong. Zhuangshu stayed on the spot with a dumb face, turned to look at Fengyuyu, then at Bai Jianchun, and asked for instructions sternly, Sir, madam, do you want to kill me? I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 305. Kill. Do not kill. Fenyuyu's and Baiqianchun's voices sounded together, making Qin Yushan, who was standing there in fear, feel quite complicated. The one who said kill was Fenyuyu, and the one who said no kill was Baiqianchun. She didn't expect that the last glimmer of hope that could save her would be the woman she regarded as her mortal enemy. What did she mean now? Kindness or shame? But for the sake of her own life, although Qin Yushan looked ugly, she still wisely chose to shut up at this time. You can get your face back later, but if your life is gone, you will lose everything. Qin Yushan will never be willing to die now. Fenyuyu frowned and looked at Bai Jianchun in disapproval. Why not kill her? Bai Jianchun said rationally and calmly, because killing her would do me no good. Fenyuyu was depressed. Then what's the benefit of not killing her? Aren't you afraid that she will find a killer to kill you in the future? Don't be afraid, Bai Jianchun said decisively, you didn't even touch a hair on my head. Fenyuyu choked, that's true. Then what are you going to do with her? Make her apologize. Cut off an arm to atone for her sins. Qin Yushan bit her lip and looked pale. If she cut off an arm, wouldn't she be disabled? Bai Jianchun raised a smile on her lips and glanced sideways at him. You don't have to be so cruel. The death penalty law and regulations that I just mentioned for hurting the Star Master and endangering the life safety of the Star Master have just been enacted. Since she didn't know it was the first time she violated it, her life will not be spared. Forget about apologizing. She just needs to compensate me for my mental damages and lost work pay, as well as other people's mental damages and lost work pay. Especially for Antya and her family. Today is a big day for their family. With her making such a fuss, it is obviously unlucky to turn a wedding into a murder scene, so more compensation must be paid. Antya, who hurried over from the kitchen and listened for a while, was very moved. What the Star Master said was really right, but it was not good. The uproar today was really unlucky. What a wonderful wedding scene. Everyone was happy and jubilant, and even though they were half married, the guests and hosts were all frightened. This made it difficult for the young couple, his son and daughter-in-law, to have a smooth future. The expensive and laborious arrangements we put in for the past 10 days were all in vain. This loss must be compensated. The Star Master is still thoughtful. Bai Jianchun continued, in addition, the guests present were also delayed because of this, and each of them also needs to compensate for some mental losses and lost work wages, as well as the Phoenix battleship and the team brought by Marshal Huo. We have worked so hard on this matter, and the mental damages should not be less. So I did the math. The compensation that the third princess needs to pay me should be 10 times the amount of the task that was posted anonymously. The Xue family who held the wedding today also paid the same price. As for the compensation price for the team members and guests, let them discuss how much each person needs. I believe that our royal representative, the third princess, will not hesitate to give you more compensation, don't you think so, third princess? Qin Yushan's face was pale and sad when her name was called, and her eyeballs were filled with red bloodshot eyes. She felt that this woman was talking like a lion. Where did she get so many star coins? 1/3 of the star coins she had saved before were used to anonymously publish killing missions. The rest was far from even the mental damage fee to the ancient doctor, let alone other people's. Bai Jianchun looked at her face, suppressed her smile, and her eyes became sharp. Why, the third princess doesn't want to pay compensation and wants to pay for her life directly. In this case, Zhuangshu, do it, this is the third princess, we cannot stop our own choices. Upon hearing this, Zhuangshu immediately cheered up and said cooperatively, yes, Madam Sir. Then he condensed a water arrow, which was faintly blue and still braved the cold air, and aimed at Qin Yushan, as if one arrow could shoot right through the person. Qin Yushan's body trembled violently, she gritted her teeth and shouted hurriedly, no, I will compensate, I will compensate. I wish I had said this earlier. A smile appeared on Baikin Chun's face again. Zhuangshu. Zhuangshu nodded, and the water arrows in front of him disappeared. By the way, do you know how much the star coins are for posting tasks anonymously? Bai Qianchun turned to look at the man beside her. Fen Yuyu nodded. After receiving information from fake Qianqian before, he learned about the amount of two types of anonymous task releases in the temple. The starting price of ordinary tasks is 100,000. The starting price of the recently changed absolutely confidential anonymous tasks is 100 million. The fake Qianqian saw 1 billion. It is obvious that Qin Yu wanted to get people to take orders as soon as possible, so he went out. The price is too high. Oh, then 10 times is 10 billion. Bai Qianchun raised her eyebrows, feeling that the decision she made was so right. 10 billion, she can just use it to rebuild Green City. Although the stone houses are comfortable for the star citizens to live in and have a pastoral character, they can be used as a country vacation place in the future, and the city must be rebuilt. Otherwise, after her Star Lord's mansion is rebuilt and she lives in the castle manor, the star citizens can only live in stone houses, which will not go well with her conscience. Fen Yuyu nodded with a smile on his lips. The expression on this little money fan's face was much cuter than the fierce way he pressed him down on the washstand. Then he was not polite and said directly, the compensation for my men and my brother-in-law's eldest sister's men will be 10 million per person. They didn't even eat well today, and they worked a lot of time. 1,000, this is the lowest price. Bai Qianchun calculated the number of people on the Phoenix battleship. There were more than 500 people, which added up to more than 5 billion. In addition, the soldiers on Marshal Huo's side were only a lot more than the people on the Phoenix display stand. Then, that's more than 5 billion again. Tisk, tisk, so Qin Yushan was saddled with a debt of more than 20 billion in the blink of an eye. This is not over yet. There is also the compensation for the Shui family and the guests. If you add one more, it will cost 50 to 60 billion. This debt is a bit too heavy. Bai Qianchun felt that after what happened, Qin Yushan might never dare to send a mission to kill her again. Look at this stupid move. Not only did she not kill anyone, but she also incurred a huge debt. What a bargain. Qin Yushan's whole body was cold and she couldn't breathe under the huge debt. This woman, Gu Yi, is so cruel. She knew that this woman would not let her go easily. Mizusawa Yu glanced at her sympathetically, and suddenly felt that the 400 million yuan he had been tricked into buying pills by Mu Yuan's Star Master was not so unbearable. At least there was someone who was worse off than him now. In contrast, everyone except Qin Yushan was happy. Especially Zhuangshu and other Phoenix battleship members present, who could hardly maintain their image of serious and mighty warriors, were all happy in their hearts. Thank you, sir, and thank your wife for working for their benefit. 10 million star coins is a huge sum of money for them. They have made a lot of money. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 306. Sheng Baining felt happy because her younger siblings were more powerful. She would bite him hard when he got the chance. She couldn't do this. The younger brother, Xiao is not bad either. He won 10 million star coins for their warriors. It just so happened that she and Lao Huo were worried about what kind of benefits they would give to the soldiers. It would be a blessing to have pie in the sky. It was a pity that she didn't bring many people here this time. There was only one battleship. If she had brought 2 more battleships, people can gather more wool if they come over. After all, there are not many stupid sheep that are so good at shearing wool, and there are not many opportunities to be so good at shearing wool. Now that she has 10 million per person, she can buy an extra batch of fruits from Wuyuan planet and go back to share a cent. The soldiers of the 31st Legion followed them through life and death, and it would be unreasonable not to provide them with better benefits. Those warriors who didn't come brought an extra big durian back to replenish them, so that they wouldn't be too jealous when they saw the 10 million star coins. Shen Baining was thinking silently in her heart, thinking that she would go to her younger siblings and tell them to keep the durians for them. Shen Nangxiao heard that the little girl said that a rich man bought hundreds of big durians a few days ago and pretended to be a durian. Most of the warehouses of the starship are full of durian trees. Although there are many durian trees on Wuyuan planet, they cannot withstand selling in such large quantities. Besides, there are also many people in their 31st Legion, so they are really afraid that they will not be enough. Another thing is that they don't have much liquidity on hand, and the funds they invested before have not been withdrawn until dividends are paid out. They have also invested in 2 wild stars that are under construction, which all require money. As for the welfare this time, the couple paid for it out of their own pockets. They probably didn't have enough money to buy such a large amount of durians. In the past, they could borrow it from the waiter, a very rich man, to help with their capital turnover. But this time it didn't work. Asking her younger siblings to buy fruit and borrowing money from her younger brother meant that the couple's money went out of one pocket and came in from the other. She couldn't do that. Shen Baining mentally took a look at the wealthy people of her generation around her. Apart from the waiter, she was her uncle's eldest cousin Sheng Donghui. As the eldest son and grandson of the Sheng family, the eldest cousin was ordered to join the Sheng family's 2nd Legion without any surprise. Unfortunately, her eldest cousin was not interested in joining the Legion, and his military talent was not high. He was not as good as a girl like her eldest cousin. On the contrary, she is particularly interested in investing and has a strong talent. She became a famous Midas expert in the business circle a few years ago. She makes money wherever she invests and makes a lot of money. I think I can borrow her Pentacles to buy durians. There should be money. She did what she said, and Shen Baining planned to borrow money from her cousin after she was done here. Here, Fen Yuyu was afraid that Qin Yushan, a woman who agreed, would delay the payment, so after the guests had discussed the price of compensation, he decisively sent a message to His Majesty the Emperor, his dear uncle. I told him everything about today's incident. He also added insult to injury by saying how vicious and pretentious Qin Yushan was, almost deceiving them. Then he said how his wife was innocent, kind, and tolerant. Not only was he kind enough not to let her pay for her life, but he also tolerated her so that she didn't need to bow her head and apologize. They preserved her princess's face, etc., and finally proposed their solution, to compensate for the loss. Even though His Majesty the Emperor knew that Fen Yuyu was playing tricks and exaggerating the matter, he still couldn't help but get angry and his blood pressure soared. What the 3rd daughter did was truly unforgivable and extremely heinous. Just for her little love, she wanted to assassinate the Wuyuan Star Master. If she really succeeded, it would be fine. Without the Star Master, Wuyuan Star would shut down and no longer produce the wood element. The 7 origin stars on the border, the protective light will eventually break. When the Orc Empire takes advantage of this opportunity to come in and start a war again, then his 3rd daughter will be the sinner of the entire empire. How can such a person be worthy of being the representative of the princess of the empire? And he, as a father, will probably be disgraced when the time comes, and will be given the title of a goddaughter who has no way to teach him. This is not what His Majesty the Emperor wants to see. No one is more reluctant to start another war than him, and no one hopes for peace in the empire more than him. The third daughter really went too far. Besides, the Muyuan Star Master is still the wife of Feng Xiazi. This guy is very difficult to deal with. If he touches his wife, he may not be able to make it right. With this guy's temper, he didn't directly kill his third daughter and even left a piece of it. It was definitely not his idea to give her his life. His eldest sister of the opposite sex who grew up with him couldn't persuade him at first, so it seemed that only his little wife who was hiding her side could persuade him. This boy didn't lie about this. This boy's wife didn't take the opportunity to kill his third daughter, his love rival, and she was indeed very kind, tolerant and generous as long as she wanted compensation. Later, when he heard about the huge compensation of 60 billion, His Majesty the Emperor could not help but tremble a few times. However, after listening to Feng Xiazi's step-by-step analysis of who the compensation was for, he felt that Feng Xiazi was his wife. He is really a kind person. Even when he was almost killed, he still thought about the family and other guests at the wedding. Even the soldiers who came to help had a share. He was really kind-hearted. His Majesty the Emperor, who had a very good initial impression of Bai Jianchun, immediately waved his hand and said that he had paid the money for his third daughter first. This was compensation, and it was outrageous whether it was in arrears or paid in installments. Later, he angrily said that he would send someone to take this bad thing back. After hanging up the communication, Fen Yuyu was happy. Bai Jianchun looked at him walking back with a smile and swinging his long legs. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "How is it? Is it done?" Fen Yuyu's peach blossom eyes curled up. "Of course, don't you worry if I take action. The money will arrive soon. I will arrange for Zhuangshu to share it later. Your 10 billion will be transferred directly to you in the account, you don't have to worry about anything else." Yes, Bai Jianchun nodded with satisfaction. She really didn't want to worry too much about these trivial matters, so she simply agreed and let Fen Yuyu arrange them. What about Qin Yushan? Fen Yuyu's originally cheerful face smiled slightly. "Let's find a place to lock her up first. His Majesty the Emperor will send someone to take her back in the next 2 days. Don't worry, even if His Majesty the Emperor takes her back, she will not be easy. This time she has not only lost the face of the royal family, but also touched the bottom line of the empire. Even if she is a princess, she can avoid the death penalty but cannot escape the crime of living. In addition to punishment, His Majesty the Emperor is not a scapegoat. She will still have to pay off the compensation by herself." Bai Qianchun's eyes flashed. From his words, you could tell that Qin Yushan was probably not as favored as the rumors said, and she was the most favored princess. "Okay, then lock her in the treehouse she lived in before. I'll add a square cage, so she won't be able to escape. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs." Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 307. As the third princess Qin Yushan was taken into custody, the wedding assassination incident came to an end. Her followers quickly picked up their tails and behaved. They did not dare to stay here any longer, and even did not dare to stay in the tree house. They slithered back. Live on a starship docked at the starport. "It's scary. It's scary. The 3 princesses have been arrested. It's better for little minions like them to stay calm and stop attracting people's attention here. In addition, they would not dare to get close to the third princess in the future. They did not dare to come forward when she asked for help just now. The third princess must have held a grudge against them." At this moment, several people were envious of Puyi's group of people who had split with them early. It would have been great if they had also left the third princess's side. But now they are in a dilemma, and they are not human beings inside and outside. They regretted it. The third princess was a trap. It's a pity that it's useless to regret it anymore. It's too late now to get in touch with Puyi and the others. Puyi and Buletin Wen looked at them running away with their tails between their legs, each with a smile on their face, not to mention that they were so overwhelmed. Puyi puffed up her chest proudly, and when Bai Jianchun looked over at her, her anger deflated. She showed her 2 rows of small white teeth to Bai Jianchun, eager to please, and said humbly, "Well, since there is no such thing here, it's our business, so let's go back first." Bai Jianchun nodded slightly, looked towards her with a smile, and warned, "Well, go back and don't wander around at night." Puyi's body stiffened, and she quickly shook her head like a rattle, expressing that she didn't dare to wander around anymore. The last time she wandered around, she was not only crying because she heard the shocking secret about this fake couple and was threatened. Not to mention, she was targeted by these 2 and given poison. How dare she continue to wander around? She is now a healthy girl who goes to bed early and gets up early. She is determined not to go around in the evening to spread rumors. Even the little sister in the treehouse next door invited her to play cards at night. She didn't go. After making the promise, Puyi quickly pulled Buletin Wen beside him and hurried out. Buletin Wen, who was dragged and staggered, looked confused. "What are you doing? What are you rushing to do in such a hurry? I haven't said hello to the ancient medicine star master yet." Puyi stiffened, then spoke righteously, "Of course I'm anxious, it's going to be dark soon, the road back to the treehouse is uneven, and it's difficult to walk at night, so we can watch while we can. When you see the way, go back quickly." Buletin Wen and the little sisters following her all looked up at the gorgeous sunset hanging in the sky. Is it going to get dark soon? And what if it gets dark? They still have lights when it gets dark, so it's not a big problem to light them up so they can see the way. This Pui, why has he become weird since he came to Muyuan Star? The sisters didn't quite understand what she was doing by telling lies with her eyes open, but now was really not a good time to talk, so they had better go back first before talking about it. The assassination had just happened and they didn't feel safe staying outside. I feel butterflies in my heart. There were many timid guests who had the same idea as them. After watching a group of ladies leave smoothly, they followed suit and quickly left this place of right and wrong. After a while, most of the people in the huge and festive wedding scene had left, and it became much empty. Of course, there were naturally some people who were not in a hurry to leave, including Captain Bale and the doctors on the transport ship. Captain Bale's deep eyes were red with tears at this time, and then he bowed to Bai Jianchun with a sad face and apologized. "I didn't expect that Moss would be so confused, and my dereliction of duty. Yuan Xing and Star Master, I'm really sorry that you have brought so much trouble." Bai Jianchun's lips curled up, her dark eyes stared at his hair with a faint sparkle, and she said, "Captain Bale, you don't have to be like this is all the fault of the deputy captain named Moss. He also deliberately deceived you. This matter has nothing to do with you. The only blame is that he took advantage of your trust, Captain, and did something stupid." Why did this sound a little awkward? The people who were standing around quietly in the background felt suspicious, but they heard Bai Jianchun continue to say, "But there is one more thing I want to ask the captain. Do you know about this horse, what happened between Vice Captain Si and the third princess?" Bale's deep and moist eyes flickered slightly, his face covered with a beard covering most of his face, his brows furrowed, and then he sighed, "I know this. Everyone is dead, there is nothing that cannot be said." Then he told what he knew. It turned out that 3 years ago, the third princess was still an unknown third princess who was covered by the light of the second princess. In an accident, she encountered a star disaster. Her escape capsule fell on a remote star with savage folk customs, and was captured by an aborigine there. Saved, women are rare on the deserted star. You can imagine what happened to Qin Yushin, a beautiful girl, after she came here. Of course, she was left as a wife by those people. Moss was also an aborigine from that deserted planet. At that time, he happened to be returning home from vacation. He happened to see the beautiful and pitiful Qin Yushin and couldn't help but feel moved on the spot. Then he paid a high price to take her down at the aboriginal auction, planning to take her home as your wife. In the days when Qin Yushin was brought home by Moss was very kind to Qin Yushin. Not only did he not touch her, he also provided her with delicious food and drinks. He tried his best to find good things to decorate the wedding and planned to give her a complete wedding format. But I didn't expect that on the day of the wedding, Qin Yushin ran away while no one was paying attention. Just as the search escort arrived, she got on the battleship and left. Naturally, the wedding that Moss prepared ended up without a problem. Later, Moss went crazy and couldn't find her. To people, everyone on the transport ship knew that Moss was an infatuated person and had a sweetheart who disappeared before the wedding. But most of the crew thought that his sweetheart was dead. Only Captain Bale knew that his sweetheart ran away. It was not until more than a year ago that the second princess's reputation was damaged due to the third prince's involvement and she could no longer serve as the princess representative. Qin Yushin, the third princess, was promoted to stand in front of the public. Her photo was also widely circulated on the Star Network and was seen by Moss. Moss recognized her at that time, but because of the identity gap between the two, Moss could only get drunk but did not dare to look for her again. People. Captain Bale happened to be with him when he was drunk, and listened to him ramble on about everything. He knew that Moss was also suffering in his heart. His sweetheart was so close in front of him but he couldn't find him back. Of course it wasn't because of that. He was too afraid to find out the identity of the third princess, but he was afraid that his own identity and past would add stain to the third princess. It can be seen that Mars is really affectionate. At this point, Captain Bale sighed with emotion and wiped away his tears for his affection. As for how Moss got in touch with the third princess, Captain Bale said he had no idea about it. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 308. After hearing this past incident, Bai Qianchun roughly understood why Moss had taken the blame for Qin Yushin, but she was not grateful or moved but instead laughed strangely. Qin Yushin must have regarded Moss as a stain in her life, that's why her emotions were so intense. She thought that the stain would no longer exist after Moss died, but it was a pity that this past incident was still exposed. Bai Qianchun's expression was dull and her emotions showed little fluctuation. She neither expressed emotion for Qin Yushin's desperate efforts to cover up and backfired, nor did she feel unworthy of Moss's deep affection, because she knew that Moss took the blame for love and died generously. Because of the affectionate reasons seen on the surface. Moss is not a simple person. Before he took the blame, he revealed without any secret that Qin Yushin had sent an anonymous mission and asked him to help smuggle out a killer. These two facts undoubtedly gave Qin Yushin a chance to kill Bai Qianchun. Shi Chui, admittedly, under the circumstances, it would be more advantageous to simply admit it than not to admit it, but Moss knew that Qin Yushin cared most about face, but he did it without any hesitation. Here, the fact that he deeply loves Qin Yushin has to be questioned. Another point is the red silk cells in the blood swallow. As far as Bai Qianchun knows, this thing is not available in the interstellar world. She definitely does not think that Mars can come up with this thing just by accident. She took some time to study this thing after taking it out of Shikun's superpower core before. It was not extracted directly from something, but a synthetic biological cell. Since it is artificial, then it is definitely not a coincidence that Moss can get it. So Moss is very suspicious. In addition to Moss, Bai Qianchun also suspected Captain Bale. Although he explained perfectly and almost impeccably why he knew what happened between the two people, he still knew about the past between Moss and Qin Yushin. Too clear. Something that is too perfect can make people suspicious. Is it because Bale told this story so well that he could tell a perfect lie about the assassination? Did he deliberately lead her into a misunderstanding, making her think that this incident had nothing to do with the mastermind behind the red silk cells, and was just an incident caused by ordinary feelings? If Bai Qianchun didn't know that red silk cells were synthesized, he might have suspected that this thing was a common chronic poison that happened to be obtained by moss. It's just a pity that she analyzed it and knew the cause of the formation of red silk cells. Later, the investigators sent by Feng Yuyu reported Zhuang Chuan's past, saying that Zhuang Chuan had disappeared for a lot of time every year for no reason. After the news came that he was suspected of going to Tanlang Star to work as a mercenary, the murder planned by Moss was completed. Better. Why did Zhuang Chuan hide poison in his mouth? Why did he listen to Moss? It was because he was a mercenary from Greedy Wolf Star. He accepted the mission. Then everything falls into place. But Bai Qianchun felt even more suspicious. This move of the mastermind behind the scenes was really clever. He wiped out almost all the clues behind the scenes, and also sent over the explicit clues one by one, allowing them to investigate only what he wanted them to investigate. Bai Qianchun's eyes were deep and he sighed in his heart. His opponent was harder to deal with than he thought. However, although the mastermind behind the scenes is a powerful person, she is not bad either. She knew the trick of red blood cells but did not reveal it at all, turning light into darkness in minutes. In addition, she deliberately said that she used it as a universal detoxification method, which is misleading. Since the mastermind behind the scenes has such a long reach and arranges things perfectly without revealing any flaws, then he must still have an eye in the kitchen. People who are good at controlling the overall situation are mostly narcissistic and perverted, and most of them want to watch themselves set up a trap. Situation, taking everything into your own hands. She thought that the mastermind behind the scenes must be like this, inserting spies to watch the whole drama that he planned. Star-Lord, can I take Moss's body back? After all, he has been with me for more than 10 years and was my most trusted right-hand man. I want to send him back to his hometown. He once said that he wanted to return to his roots. Return to our homeland, Captain Bale asked after finishing his sad story. Bai Qianchun smiled slightly, of course, but we need to wait for 2 more days. He needs to be checked again. I want to confirm whether the person who wants to kill me is really dead. It's better to do this. Captain Bale, you said you will leave after Jupiter's opening hours are up. Now that Jupiter's opening hours have been extended by 1 day, the opening hours will end in 2 days. Why don't you come and collect his body after 2 days? Bale's eyes widened in shock, then, won't the corpse stink? Bai Qianchun looked at him and said seriously, well, what you said makes sense. Then let me help him with the cremation ceremony. It will be more convenient and labor-saving for Captain Bale to take his ashes back. Bale, stunned JPG. She never expected that someone would help those who wanted to kill her collect her body, oh no, cremate her. But looking at her serious expression, Bale knew that it was impossible to bring back Moss' body today. He could only smile and express that he was in trouble. Later, he did not continue to be annoying here, and acted like a mature captain. He wisely left here with a few doctors who were reluctant to leave and felt sorry for their companions. Bai Qianchun stood there, sending him away with a deep look. Feng Yuyu came close to her cheek from the left, a dark light flashed in her peach blossom eyes, and asked in a low and hoarse voice that only the two of them could hear clearly, what, there's something wrong with that Bale? Feeling the moist and hot breath spraying on her porcelain white neck, Bai Qianchun stretched out her index finger to poke his forehead without expression, and pushed away his evil face with skin better than that of a woman. To answer his words, just say, we will have a barbecue at my Star-Lord's mansion tonight. Please invite your sister and brother-in-law to come with you. Thank them for their help today. Feng Yuyu took 2 steps back, raised his right hand and rubbed his forehead where there was a nail mark. He looked at her with his peach blossom eyes, and then said slowly, oh, I'll call them later. Now they are too busy gathering people to share the money and have no time. Baiken Chun's eyes lit up. Yes, her 10 billion was about to be credited, and the amount in her account could increase a lot. Her expressionless face turned into a happy face in a second. Fen Yuyu looked at the smile on her lips and curved her thin lips. Her beautiful and slender figure was reflected in a pair of sparkling peach blossom eyes, full of doting. Yao Wengxian felt like he was being fed a ton of dog food again. What a good boy. As a novice, he was pretty good at it. Then he quickly pulled the two large and bright light bulbs of Lao Lu and Lao Chi and left the scene. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Lu Zy. Chapter 309. At night, Star-Lord Mansion. Bai Qianchun and Fen Yuyu took it upon themselves to get enough food and clothing, set up a bonfire, and put on skewers. Now there was a marinated large leg of lamb being roasted on the wooden shelf. This is a leg of lamb that the Xue family's back kitchen didn't have time to roast after they were suddenly stopped, which happened to be a bargain for them. The same goes for several other chicken and beef balls, all of which were taken from the remaining ingredients from the wedding banquet back kitchen. It's still fresh when it comes over. In addition, Fen Yuyu also went to dig out a few big chestnuts and threw them into the fire. He remembered that Bai Qianchun, a woman, liked to eat them last time. After everything was ready, the skewers began to be grilled, and the aroma wafted out, but the invited people Sheng Baining and Huo Quancheng did not show up. Bai Qianchun kicked Fen Yuyu's shoes. Fen Yuyu was busy applying the secret barbecue sauce specially sent to him by Leng Xiao, the paralyzed boy, on the leg of lamb. Not to mention, although the boy had an expressionless face and looked like version 0.1 of his brother-in-law Huo Quancheng, he prepared the sauce. The sauces and stuff are really nothing to say, they taste really good. Feeling the movement of her shoes, Fen Yuyu, who was sniffing the fragrance, quickly raised his head, holding a brush in one hand and a bottle as big as a fist in the other, and looked over with blank eyes. What's wrong? Bai Qianchun pursed her lips and sat down next to him. Have you really told your eldest sister and brother-in-law? Why haven't they come yet? Hearing this, Fen Yuyu's tense body immediately relaxed. He withdrew his gaze, lowered his head and continued to brush his roasted lamb legs, and then brushed the skewers, and said casually, I told you, they might know something. It's delayed, wouldn't it be better if we didn't come? We can eat all this meat by ourselves. And they can still live in a world of two, so what are they doing with those two light bulbs? Bai Qianchun rolled her eyes and was speechless. You really think I invited them over to have barbecue? Fen Yuyu was suspicious and handed over a grilled chicken skewer in his hand. What else? Bai Qianchun took the skewer and bit into a piece of meat. While eating it with relish, he said, of course I have something important to say. There were so many people in that place just now that it was inconvenient to talk about it. I thought with your intelligence you can understand what I meant after I avoided answering and said that sentence. Fen Yuyu, can he say that his heart was pounding after she poked his head intimately and his brain was a little short-circuited, so he didn't receive what she meant? He turned away his eyes and said hesitantly, I was thinking about other things at that time. Bai Qianchun sighed, forget it, and didn't get to the bottom of it. Fen Yuyu felt a little disappointed when he saw this. If he continued to ask, he might not be able to hold back and tell the truth. So the two of them sat by the campfire, one grilling skewers and the other eating skewers. It wasn't until Bai Qianchun ate the second skewer that Fen Yuyu asked again, what is the important thing? Bai Qianchun stretched her hand towards the fire, took a wooden stick and pulled out the big chestnuts inside. I'll talk about it together when they get here. Okay, Fen Yuyu didn't force it. He took out a plate and put the hot chestnuts on it. Then he gathered a golden knife in his hand and started to cut it. He also gathered a spoon to dig out the chestnut meat inside and put it on top. Bai Qian-chun went to the empty plate in Bai Qian-chun's hand and ate it with a silver fork. It can be said that the service is very good. Fen Yuyu worked as a coolie, and Bai Qian-chun also drank water without forgetting the well digger, and asked, "Do you want to eat?" Fen Yuyu immediately curled up his peach blossom eyes with a smile, "Yes." Then he took out another small silver fork of the same style, took a piece of chestnut meat from her plate and put it into his mouth. "Well, it's sweet, glutinous and fragrant, delicious." Just after the two of them divided half of the big chestnut, Huo Quanzhen's figure hurried out of the darkness. The two people sitting in rows by the bonfire looked up together. Fen Yuyu asked in surprise, "Brother-in-law, why are you alone? Where is the eldest sister? Why didn't she come?" Huo Quanzhen looked cold and solemn, and his handsome and chiseled face was not softened in the slightest by the orange jumping bonfire. Hearing this, he looked at Fen Yuyu with a pair of sharp and cold black eyes, and explained coldly in a deep voice, "The border star is not stable. It is suspected that there are people from the Orc Empire smuggling in and colluding with people from the Chaos Star. Your Majesty will discuss it and hand it over to the 31st Army for inspection. Your eldest sister is buying fruits with money, integrating the army, and adjusting travel. List of personnel, we are leaving here tonight, so busy that we don't have time to come." Fen Yuyu's mouth twitched, "Then you leave everything to my eldest sister? Then what do you, a serious marshal and the leader of the army, do?" Huo Quanzhen pursed his thin lips, his dark and handsome eyebrows flew into his temples, and his deep eyes reflected the light of the flames, finally revealing a bit of softness, "Be the man behind a successful woman." The voice was cold and serious, but I didn't expect that the words that came out of his mouth would be so powerful. Fen Yuyu was used to it, but Bai Qian-chun almost spat out a mouthful of water. Fortunately, she only took a small sip from the water glass, so she wouldn't be embarrassed on the spot. After she calmed down her breathing, she looked at Huo Quanzhen with a slightly strange look in her eyes. I didn't expect that the marshal, who was upright and decisive, would say such a thing. How should I put it? The contrast was too great. This is even more exciting than what Shen Baining told her about letting the marshal kneel over the durian. Seeing that Bai Qian-chun's eyes were glued to Huo Quanzhen's face, Fen Yuyu beside him stopped. What's so good about Huo Quanzhen's hard, expressionless face that could freeze someone to death? He moved and moved, moving his body slightly forward, blocking Bai Qian-chun's view as much as possible, and then continued to ask, "So are you here specifically to say goodbye to us now?" Huo Quanzhen's cold jawline moved, his movements a little stiff, and he responded in a dull voice, "Yes." After hesitating for a second, he put aside the annoying Fen Yuyu, looked at Bai Qian-chun and said, with a bit of awkwardness in his cold and hoarse voice, "Brother and sister, can you sell me 2 bottles of beauty pills and whitening pills?" Ah, Bai Qian-chun subconsciously raised her eyes and looked at his handsome face. It was indeed a little dark, but handsome enough, and the facial lines and muscles were also perfectly distributed. "You can try whitening pills, but don't use beauty pills. Get on it." Ahem. Fen Yuyu coughed twice in a deliberately loud voice, staring at her sternly. "Where are you looking? Where are you looking? Your legal husband is still here. Is it really okay to dare to look at other men looking so seriously in front of him? And Huo Quanzhen obviously looks like that, but why are they all attracted by him?" Fen Yuyu felt sad. Forget it about the eldest sister. He, as the younger brother, can't take care of her too much, but not his wife. She belongs to him. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 310. Bai Qian-chun glanced back at him, her eyes were cold and her expression was clear, not as if her soul had been seduced. Fen Yuyu twitched at her with a suspicious look that said, "You have a bad throat, Then he turned back to look at Huo Quancheng. What about that, brother-in-law? You want to buy whitening pills and beauty pills, sister, do you know, why didn't you buy it before? And brother-in-law, are you secretly hiding your private money again? Huo Quancheng turned away his eyes, his handsome and cold face was slightly shy, and his voice was a little low. Don't tell your eldest sister, she doesn't know, because something happened a few days ago and she spent a lot of money. The remaining money it was reserved to give benefits to soldiers, so she endured not buying it. But she also wants to have things that others have, and I plan to give her a surprise after buying them. Bai Qianchun once again looked at Marshal Huo with admiration. This man looked cold, but he doted on his wife. Look how considerate and domineering these words were. His wife wanted to have what others had. What a good guy and a good man. In this regard, Bai Qianchun certainly supports this good man to be a good husband. Seeing that the couple did not hesitate to help tonight, Bai Qianchun had to give him a preferential price. In the end, she lowered the price to the cost price and sold it to him. As for why it is not given for free, isn't this to give the marshal a chance to show off? The ones given for free were given by her, and those bought at cost price were given by the marshal himself. Fen Yuyu understood her operation, and the sourness in her heart disappeared immediately, and she stood up happily and patted Huo Quancheng on the shoulder. Brother-in-law, don't worry, I won't tell eldest sister that you hid private money, such a surprise, it's gone. I understand this, so can you tell me how much private money you still have? Huo Quancheng got the two small porcelain bottles and put them into the space with some excitement. Hearing this, he turned sideways to avoid his hand, and his voice returned to his usual cold and domineering voice. You don't need to know. Tisk. Fen Yuyu knew there was no chance and didn't say anything else. When he saw Huo Quancheng turning around and wanting to leave with his long legs after buying things, he quickly stopped him and then went back to Bai Qianchun to discuss with her. Daughter-in-law, you see we have a lot of kebabs at night, and there is such a big roasted leg of lamb that the two of us can't finish. How about asking my brother-in-law to pack some and take them away to eat on the road? Bai Qianchun opened her eyelids and stared at Fen Yuyu's face with a pair of beautiful black eyes. Oh, my daughter-in-law, she screamed smoothly. Fen Yuyu's back was sweating at the sight of her, her smile was stiff, and she looked away with guilty eyes before she said, well, pack more. Okay. Fen Yuyu raised the corners of his mouth, and said to Huo Quancheng with a proud smile on his enchanting face, brother-in-law, wait a minute, I'll pack you some skewers, and some roasted chestnuts. You can also bring some. I remember that my eldest sister doesn't like to eat it, but you, a grown man, like this one. Huo Quancheng's cold face almost split open. This kid really wants to ruin his image of a tough guy all the time. But in the end he could only sigh. What else could he do? Just hold it in. If he beats this guy, his wife will teach him a lesson later. Besides, his sister-in-law is still here, so he can't deal with her man in front of her. After all, his sister-in-law gave him a preferential treatment, so he still has to face it. Watch. If Bai Qianchun knew what he was thinking, she would be depressed. Not only would she not stop her, but she would happily urge him to hit him faster. Fen Yuyu is a man who deserves a beating. Don't worry about her. Show mercy on face. Fen Yuyu was still mumbling, brother-in-law, do you want this big leg of lamb? The two of us can't finish it, but it's not hot enough now, so you have to wait. By the way, when are you going to leave Mu, departing from you and seeing? Huo Quancheng straightened his back and stood on the spot with a cold look, not moving at all. Hearing this, his eyes followed the direction of Fen Yuyu. The roasted lamb leg was sizzling and dripping with oil, and the surface was covered with a beautiful layer of golden and crispy. His deep and cold eyes moved slightly. Roast leg of lamb, not only he likes to eat, but his wife also likes to eat. His Adam's apple rolled twice in restraint. Why don't you wait? After Huo Quancheng made his decision, he quickly replied, then I'll wait. It's still early. The durians that need to be traded are still being picked with the star citizens of Muyuan planet. It will take at least 3 hours. Oh, it's really early. Don't stand around. Sit down and wait, Feng Yuyu said in a casual tone, then handed him a bunch of mutton skewers. You eat first, and when you leave, I'll bake another batch for you and pack it up. Huo Quan took it and took a bite. His cold voice was tainted with the smell of fireworks. You give me a few skewers first. I will send them to your eldest sister first, and then come back to get them. That's okay. Feng Yuyu had no objection, then pointed to the meat skewers on the iron plate next to him and said, I have grilled the few skewers here. Leave 3 skewers for my wife, and you can give the others first. Sister, send it over. Yahuo Quancheng responded in a dull voice. He took the remaining mutton on the bamboo stick and took it into his mouth. He chewed it for a few times and swallowed it. Then he stood up and reached out with a big hand to grab a piece of meat regardless of the greasiness. Holding the bamboo sticks and Feng Yuyu beside him to help open the bag, Huo Quancheng put the skewers in his hands, then took the bag with his big hands, stepped forward with his long legs, and his tall and straight figure quickly walked away into the darkness. Bai Qianchun. The two men cooperated so well and the process was so smooth that she couldn't find a chance to interrupt. If anyone said in the future that the relationship between the two men was bad, she wouldn't believe it. What's wrong? Feng Yuyu looked at her expressionless face, staring dimly at the direction Huo Quancheng left, and felt a little guilty. He definitely did not admit that he had moved so quickly just now to send Huo Quancheng away as soon as possible. He wanted 2 people. A world of 2. Thinking like this, he didn't show it at all on his face. He reached for a skewer, wiped off the grease and then thoughtfully handed it to her hand. He said with a cheerful voice, eat quickly, I think you are quite good. I like eating this kebab. Bai Qianchun clenched her fingers and stared, do you still remember that I have something important to say? Feng Yuyu's smile was stuck, and there was a hint of embarrassment on the monster's face. What's the matter? He rubbed his face by mistake and smiled flatteringly at her. How about you tell me first, and then I'll tell them. Bai Qianchun frowned. Can you guarantee that the eavesdropping information will not be leaked when you are transmitting information to them? She knew that there were some unscrupulous hackers on the Star Network. Feng Yuyu raised her lips proudly. Don't worry, I can use the encrypted channel. The Feng Group has developed it in the past 2 years, and I guarantee that the information will not be leaked.